The writing portions of standardized assessments are now all rooted in reading. No longer are students asked to write about finding a secret door in the classroom or think of an embarrassing moment that happened to you in your life. No longer are they writing personal narratives about background knowledge. Now, if required to write a narrative on an assessment, it'll be based on reading and come in one of 5 types. If on the assessment they read literature or some type of fictional piece, they may be asked to rewrite the same story from a different character's viewpoint. Or, after reading that story, they might have to continue it. This is the idea of writing a sequel, or predict what characters will do the next time this happens. So both of those are writing about your reading responses in a narrative form after reading literature. And here is a third type. After reading the original text, students may be asked to go back and insert the missing part or page or section to the text. For example, after reading something short like a picture book, The Big Orange Splot, students might have to go back and insert a page where 2 pages seem to move pretty quickly in time. Let's pretend that on the assessment, students have to read this picture book, The Big Orange Splot, where they meet Mr. Plumby, and he lives in a neighborhood where everybody's house looks the same. But for whatever reason, a bird with an orange paint can drops a splot of paint on his roof. Well, rather than being upset, he embraces it and paints his whole house. Unfortunately, the rest of the neighbors think that's crazy. They think something's wrong with him. They think he should fix it. Rather than fixing it, though, he is thrilled. Well, one night, a stranger, simply a man in the original text, goes and visits Mr. Plumbean, and they talk while drinking lemonade. They talk all night long. On the next page, the man changed his house. And the story continues where everybody embraces differences and the neighborhood no longer looks the same. That's a great picture book with a lot of layers of meaning. But let's imagine that after reading that picture book, students had to insert the missing page. What if they were asked to draw the illustration primary and write the text for what did the man and Mr. Plumbean talk about? So students have to think about what they learned in the beginning of the text and what they know will happen after this additional page is added. And they have to write what would make sense. They have to stay within the parameters of the original text, but add in the missing part. All right, so all 3 of those are possible narrative writing tasks based on reading literature. However, they might be asked to write a narrative after reading nonfiction text. They might have to write a historical fiction or a sci-fi. They may be provided a newspaper article or some type of informational text about an event in history. And then they have to write a narrative. They have to imagine they lived during this time period. And using the details they learned from that reading, they have to describe in a story what it would have been like. And that's the same premise for writing a sci-fi. However, the text, now instead of social studies based, would be rooted in science concepts. Maybe they learned about planets or a particular planet in a nonfiction text, or about a principle of science like gravity or force. And so again, using the concepts, the nonfiction content that they learned from that reading, they have to write a sci-fi that includes the principles of gravity or the facts and information about living on Mars. So those are the 5 types of narratives that students may be asked on a standardized assessment to generate after reading. But before we can write about our reading, they have to be able to just write a narrative, period. They have to understand character development and setting concepts. They have to know plot, how rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution all comprise the beginning, middle, and end. And they definitely can't write from a different character's perspective if they don't understand perspective and point of view. So teach those concepts in your reading, but then in your writing units, have students writing narratives based on text and no longer simply personal experiences.